Hello once again. After a little hiatus, uh, and while covering Ukraine and Russia war, because there seems to be a little stalemate there, things are happening on ground. Great deal of things are happening on ground, which I'll be covering in a consolidated manner, because another strategic situation, military situation, has arisen in the world, and which is reasonably connected to this Ukraine, Russia. So I'll be talking of that today. So we'll go into the details of China-Taiwan military affairs and a little bit of war gaming to start with. So what is the likely scenario? Like in Russia-Ukraine conflict, US is likely to provide support to Taiwan with high-tech precision intelligence and weapon systems on outbreak of war, if it ever breaks out. I'm just saying if it ever breaks out, because it would have broken out long time back, should have broken this time. There are possibilities for China to immediately capture certain areas, which is not happening. So if it ever breaks out, here satellites and communication, electronic warfare, this is going to play the most dominating part in the warfare uh, one has ever seen. And this is because this is being seen in Russia-Ukraine conflict, how satellites and communication warfare has shaped up the battlefield there. Now, China would like to, let's say, but we'll not leave it there. But China, let's say, if it wants to capture, China would like to ensure the capturing of Taiwan within a short span of time to avoid getting into situation like Russia, which has allowed the Western support firming up and has taken Russia into a situation of quagmire. Now, there is one big difference here. Taiwan is not recognized by the world community. It is recognized as part of China, whereas Ukraine is a sovereign nation. So, trying to impose sanctions on China, there will be a big debate in the world, and probably it will be very difficult for world to come to one stance of imposing sanctions on China because most of the world recognizes Taiwan as part of China. Now, looking at China, China's Eastern Theater Command is going to be given this responsibility, which is closer to Taiwan, and it is committed to capture, but it will always be given a lot more resources from other commands. Now, if you analyze other commands, you will find why their resources are so important for this invasion. Another issue is China would, in this case, put in place a process to contain India strategically. Most probably, it will negotiate with India so that it doesn't play any part in any kind of a conflict which involves Taiwan because directly it is involving US. So in any China US confrontation, China would make sure that India is already handled well before the situation deteriorates. Now, for every military man, it's very important to understand the geography and climate because that dictates the campaign season, that dictates how the forces will be employed, that also dictates how, let's say, a power like China is going to invade Taiwan. So there will be possibilities and we'll discuss that. Firstly, the land controlled by Taiwan consists of 168 islands. So defense of smaller islands is very difficult and China can easily capture them by force. It has got an area of 36,193 square kilometers. It's not a small area. Any army in this world, for them it is very difficult to capture such a large area. Especially if it is in the sea, far away from the mainland, this main Taiwanese island is very difficult to capture. The main island, because it makes up 99% of this area, and it is about 180 kilometers across Taiwan Strait from southeastern coast of mainland China. Now, if you analyze troop wise, it looks like it has got a similar defensive requirement as J&K, which is defended by about two core size forces, 6 to 7 divisions, and 1 to 2 armored brigades. So similar kind of a force structure. However, in case of Taiwan, we will see Air Force plays a very important role Air Force and Navy is playing very important role in defense of Taiwan because of the sea configuration and because of superiority of American aircrafts. F-16s are there. However, now China has caught up, and we'll see that. Now, bounded by East China Sea to the north, Philippines Sea to east, Luzon Strait directly to its south, and South China Sea to its southwest. Now, South China Sea is a very strategically very important. A lot of issues there, lot of issues with other nations. What China has got, so ability to free up resources from the Southern Theater Command will not be all that easy. Now, there are smaller islands which are very close to China in geographical configuration. We'll see in the map, which can be easily captured by China the moment it wants it. The main island is basically kind of divided in two portions. One is mountainous area and other is the coastal area. Now, western side is all coastal area, lowlands full of population. The eastern side is mountainous. It has got beaches, which can be, forces can beach there. But thereafter there are mountains and it has got less population. So clearly this country has got two distinct. Similarly, the country has got two climatic zones, one in the north and one in the south. It is in the Tropic of Cancer. So the main island is a tilted fault block, and it has got a contrast between the eastern two-thirds consisting mostly of five rugged mountain ranges parallel to the east coast, and the flat to gently rolling plains of the western third where majority of the population reside. There are several peaks over 3,500 meters, which is a reasonable height. You can imagine the kind of forces which are required, the kind of protection these mountains provide, or ability of the attacking force to go and actually disperse its forces in these mountains, and probably fight a long war. The highest mountain is Yushan at 3,952 meters. The tectonic boundary that formed these ranges is still active, and the island experiences many earthquakes. Now, this is a geographical part. So, if God intervenes during times of crisis, you might find an earthquake happening, and that is something to think of. Now, rains are concurrent with onset of summer Southeast Asian monsoons. Now, so the campaign season during monsoon is very difficult in the south. It's unlikely to China is unlikely to invade Taiwan during monsoon season. Typhoons are common in July, August, and September. So July, August, and September, China would like to avoid because the moment it plans an invasion and there are typhoonic conditions there, or monsoonal rainfall is there, the chances of increasing your own problems while you want to achieve a very clean campaign will be difficult. So the chances of having a campaign is spring, winter. However, during winters, the mountain areas sometimes get snow. Generally, the temperature is normal in Taiwan. And in the north, there is a little bit of rains during winter, whereas central and southern part of island are mostly sunny. So overall, in geography and climate, we see chances of undertaking a campaign during monsoon season and summer, which is a very difficult summers are there, is less. Chances of having a campaign in winter and spring season is there. So basically, Taiwan has got summer, winters, and rainy season. So China will like to choose winters to undertake an operation. Similarly, there are two clear areas. If you want to avoid population, if you want to avoid civilian casualties, which is likely to be there because China doesn't want its own people, that's what it treats them, to have any kind of a casualty. So the chances of campaign taking place along the coast on the western side is less. China would like to concentrate more on the mountainous area and capture those areas with minimizing and putting pressure on the population to side with them. So there will be permutations and combination, but in the larger picture, this might be a military scenario which might unfold. Now, looking at this geography, you can see the islands of Taiwan. So this is a main island here, which is the main island is this one, Formosa. You have a chain of islands just next to China: Kinmen Islands, Fukui Islands, Matsu Islands, Penghu Islands, all part of Taiwan. So for China to capture Kinmen Islands or some say Matsu Islands is so easy. Similarly, capturing Penghu Island should not pose much of a problem, though Penghu Islands are reasonably better defended. Similarly, there is a small Pratas Island, which is southeast of Hong Kong and towards Taiwan. This is also part of Taiwanese. Chinese have been encircling these islands, and for them again, taking these islands is an easier thing. There is a small little outpost here of Taiwan. So geographically, you can see these are the mountain ranges. This is white is shown as the highest points, and then you're coming down. You have the beaches on the eastern coast, a town of Yilan here, uh, the sanctuary of Yilan, as also you can see on the western side is all plains and coastal line. So it is envisaged by most of the military thinkers that invasion is going to likely to be on the beaches and all. But uh, in my view, the chances of Chinese trying to capture populated areas is in a stage is more in a negotiation stage rather than trying to capture them per se, because it involves humongous amount. We've seen in Ukraine capturing populated areas is not an easy thing, and especially if there is a civil defense organized properly, then any force with any quantum of technology, any quantum of equipment faces a numerous amount of problems. Who would like to go into this kind of a situation? So best is to go and capture mountains and put pressure on the populations to actually give in, which has happened in numerous earlier military campaigns in Cuba and all. So one can actually have an analogy there, how these mountains can help China to capture rest of the island. Now, let's see how Taiwan is organizing its defense. Firstly, the aim is to ensure its own existence. Taiwan's military must deter war with PLA, and if deterrence fails, win the war. Taiwan, on its part, will not strike first in full-scale war with China, which is obvious. The ODC has got three tenets for force buildup, that is force preservation, conventional capabilities, and asymmetric capabilities. We'll talk of this a little later in the same slide. The concept of operations, the three pillars of concept of operations are force protection, decisive battle in the littoral zone, and destruction of enemy at the landing beach. And thereafter, you know, having a separate concept for asymmetric warfare. Now, in the first stage, the force protection enables Taiwan's armed forces to survive and recover from the opening phase of the massive PLA strike campaign, which is envisaged by the military leaders. I differ here a little bit, which I have already brought out, because I would feel that mountains is a better place for China to go. Now, so Taiwan has organized its forces in such a manner that the main equipment, especially the Air Force aircrafts and all, are well protected in silos and are taken out after the first strike of China goes in. Thereafter, Taiwan is organized for a littoral zone battle. It's got a layered defense of sea mines and pre-deployed obstacles, along with swarming fast attack crafts and missile assault boats, which will hinder the enemy's advance. Air Force will play a very important part. Of course, behind the back, American intelligence for precision strike is is going to be playing a very, very important part. And most of the equipment which Ukraine is getting now or is procuring now is already with Taiwan. Let's say HIMAR. Now, as the enemy approaches landing beaches, land-based precision-guided munitions and ground forces will provide additional firepower. Post-application of main conventional mechanized reserves. So mechanized reserves are there, which are going to be very important, playing an important part in trying to plug in the gap where bridgehead is coming up. It will be fought on the concept of small teams and guerrilla warfare. So Taiwan, in its stance, will organize a asymmetric war capability. So when Chinese invade, they are unable to actually have a footing for a long period of time. And Taiwan should be able to actually come back on its own feet uh, as China grapples with problems of asymmetric warfare. Now, during this time, the West is likely to give satellite-based intelligence operations. I've already covered UAVs, harpoons, coastal defense, manpads, HIMARS, fast attack crafts, miniature missile boats, all part of Taiwanese defense already there. Now, I must bring out here, Taiwan had been trying to reduce its defense budget, reduce dependence on American expenditure. However, every time this kind of a situation develops, there is something or the other which happens, and they have to again procure weapon systems. Mind you, I would like to interject here. Why, during a crisis situation, when so much is happening in Ukraine and Americans are totally engaged there, Nancy Pelosi visits Taiwan and create another geostrategic situation which is complex. Firstly, let me tell people there is no complex situation, and we as human beings have made few human beings who are controlling the reins of power. They make complexity, they make things complex so that things are never solved, and things businesses thrive. So arms industry will be behind these kind of issues which influence the minds of military leaders in America. Similarly, oil and gas and similar kind of industries which are big businesses, insurance industry, these are the people who actually control reins of geostrategic concepts world over. So they play a big game. So Nancy will be visiting Taiwan during a very complex situation which is already there in Ukraine, Russia. Who are who are going to gain in this? You all can make your own intelligent guesses. So another issue is sea mines and fast lake sea mine ships are there with Taiwan and going to be provided by the West for uh, faster sea mine laying capability, air defense for airfields, which is already existing, shore-based air defense equipment, anti-submarine warfare systems, movement of Indo-Pacific Fleet or the Pacific Fleet, earlier known as Pacific Fleet, closer to the conflict zone and create conditions for China to attack US resources so that US can intervene. So this is the kind of concept which Taiwan today actually has got, and how West is going to. Now, looking at the war material, 180,000 troops or around 6 divisions. The forces are mostly decentralized and configured to fight distributed independent battles. There is a marine force of brigade size and reasonably good air force. The quality of weapon system is very good. Yeah, American all systems which are being provided to Ukraine is already with Taiwan. So effective air monitoring based on P3 Orion. Harpoon Block 2 missiles are available. Air defense is based on Patriot, the best system and the most expensive in the world. And they have got Singers, air missiles, Black Hawks, Hellfire, Javelin, anti-tank missiles. All these kind of weapons which are being provided to Ukraine now are already existing with Taiwan. But they are lesser in number and they are going to be beefed up now. So make an intelligent guess. Now looking at China, the aim of China is to always reunify Taiwan by peaceful integration. Else, in an escalatory mode, what we are trying to analyze now, China has got two ways it can do it. Best is to launch a preemptive attack, capture to take over by force, and with a massive show of force and psychologically crippling Taiwanese defense forces. Failing which, hold mountainous east and other islands, and then take over western lowlands in battle of attrition negotiations. The force level it is going to employ is going to be committing Eastern Theater Command resources beefed up by 74th Group Army and Southern Theater, which have got specialized equipment and specialized brigades for amphibious operations, as also got light brigades. Southern Army is composed of light, amphibious, and mountain brigades, which are suitable for operations in Taiwan. Looking at the PLA's Eastern Command, Eastern Theater Command, so it is basically composed of three group armies: 71st, 72nd, 73rd. They have got mechanized infantry brigades, motorized infantry brigades, RT brigade, air defense brigade, and special operations brigade. So similar kind of a framework. Somewhere it is an armored brigade, somewhere it is a mechanized brigade. Some are infantry heavy, some are armor heavy. It, all of them have got an RT brigade, a part of their. And the Air Force, you can see the number of divisions which are there: 3rd Fighter Division, 14th Fighter Division, 29th Fighter Division, 28th Attack Division, 10th Bomber Division, Surface to Air Missile Brigades, UAV Brigade, Air Brigades, Surface to Air Missile Brigade, 8th Anti-Aircraft Brigade, PLA Navy Coastal Defenses. Basically, the charter of PLA Navy is for the coastal defense and some breaching equipment. Naval Air Force complement is there, and quantum of missiles or the rocket force. So this is the complete PLA Eastern Theater Command, which is the main responsible theater command for operations. The likely resources which are going to be grouped ex Southern Theater is 1st Amphibious Combined Brigade, 125th Amphibious Combined Arms Brigade, 132 Light Combined Arms Brigade, 163 Light Combined Arms Brigade, 154 Combined Arms Brigade. This is a part of 74th Group, and other RT component, Army Aviation component, Air Defense component, Engineers and Chemical Defense Brigade, Sustainment Brigade, and importantly the Mountain Combined Arms Brigade, which will come ex 75th Group Army to operate in mountains. So this is the kind of resources which China is likely to. It is unlikely to move too many resources from the Northern Theater Command or too many resources from the Western Command, Western Theater Command, which is against India and is occupying a large area, Tibet and all, and Xinjiang, where things can go wrong. So it is unlikely to move too many resources from there. Similarly, it is unlikely to move too many resources from the Northern Theater Command also, because of Japanese and South Koreans being that area. So now looking at that and see what Chinese tried to do, they created certain zones while they postured now after Nancy Pelosi's visit, posturing, and they created certain zones where they said, okay, we'll be coming in and or will be firing missiles. So three zones were created on the western side and three zones were created on the eastern side of the mainland. Mostly these three zones were used for impact point of missiles, and these are the three areas where Air Force of Chinese Air Force was active. So we've seen how China and Taiwan are configured, how they will fight in a broader manner. We'll be going into the details in later episodes. We will also try and think of the strategy which America is playing while Ukraine-Russia conflict is ongoing, now creating another conflict zone. The most strategic thing I have already brought out, there is always business behind American minds, and the best business is the is a war which takes place or war-like situation, so that the industry, the war industry of America, which is a big industry, sustains itself. In the next episode, we will see US Indo-Pacific strategy and its employment of forces, and likely Sino-India status during Taiwan invasion. Mind you, if you have followed me from my first episode, which I did on Ukraine-Russia conflict, which was just after Russia had invaded, and the picture which had been painted, you will see a lot of things which had been brought out, which had not been envisaged by most of the analysts that time, have come true, especially on the issue of strength of citizen forces or the forces which are defending their towns in Ukraine. Also, innovativeness or innovative system of fighting a battlefield, which is very important. One can have massive amount of equipment, massive amount of manpower. Finally, it boils down to a great deal on the man on ground. If you like my episodes, do subscribe to it. Thank you.